So, hey all, today I'm going to talk about UN Working Group on Indigenous Population. So, first of all, talking about indigenous people and what is the role of United Nations in bringing up and the responsible growth of indigenous people. So, indigenous people are, first of all, talking about them, they are inheritors and practitioners of unique cultures and ways of relating to people and the environment. So, though we people are maybe we are from the indigenous origin, but we do not relate to the actual culture that we ancestors are practicing. So indigenous people are those who still has their unique culture and uh, the ways of relating to social, cultural, economic, and political characteristics, and they will be dominant societies in which they live. So, indigenous people from around the world share common problems related to the protection of their rights as distinct peoples. The international community, that is the UN, now recognizes that special measures are required to protect their rights and maintain their distinct cultures and way of life. So, talking about its history, so how does the United Nations form the working group on indigenous populations, and how did they raise concerns about them? So, in order to raise awareness of the needs of these population groups, people chosen in recognition of the first meeting of the UN group on indigenous populations held in Geneva in 1982. Working Group on Indigenous Populations, that is WGIP, was established as a subsidiary organ to the Subcommission on the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights. The working group provided an opportunity for indigenous people to share their experiences and raise their concerns at the UN. So, talking about them, there are an estimated 476 million indigenous people in the world living across 90 countries, make up less than 5% of the world's population but account for 15% of the poorest. They speak an overwhelming majority of the world's estimated 7,000 languages and represent 5,000 different cultures. So, talking about their rights in order to enhance their biocultural heritage, Article 26 states that indigenous peoples have the rights to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used. Biocultural rights, that is, the indigenous peoples have the right to practice and revitalize their cultural traditions. Spiritual rights, indigenous people have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions. Decision making rights. Indigenous people have the right to participate in decision making in matters which would affect their rights. Spiritual rights. Indigenous peoples have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach. Decision making rights. Population and distribution. Indigenous societies range from those who have been significantly exposed to the colonizing or expansionary activities of other societies, so though to those who has yet remain in comparative isolation from any external influence such as the Sentinelese and Jarawa of the Andaman Islands. Certain indigenous societies survive, though they may no longer inhabit their traditional lands owing to migration, relocation, for forced resettlement, or having been supplanted by other cultural groups. So, concluding, lack of political representation and participation, economic marginalization and poverty, lack of access to social services, and discrimination led marginalizing the indigenous people, making them to isolate from other communities. So, UN has taken a step forward to in order to make them recognized to be recognized of their identities, the ways of life, and their right to traditional lands, territories, and natural resources. Thank you.